welcome change from all the empty arena stuff. Like, I think, maybe if we had been watching the world's best WrestleMania in front of 90,000 people in a stadium, and then all of a sudden it cut to that Cena and Bray Wyatt thing as it was, I think everyone would have absolutely destroyed it. I think it would have got panned. People would have said, "What's this? This is the most ridiculous thing we've ever seen. This is awful. You're insulting wrestling fans." But actually, because it was so different, and it was a welcome change from watching people wrestle in front of no one. And look, they're doing the best they can. They're absolutely doing the best they can, and I'm not putting any blame on anyone here, like that. But it's flat, isn't it? It's incredibly flat. It doesn't have that same atmosphere.
I tell you who I felt most was like Drew McIntyre. That ending, I was just could have been so much more. That really needed an audience there. I understand.
People have said that, yeah.
But I was like, damn. And also, like, I mean, that to have that on at the end after the Firefly Funhouse, it was just like such a weird way to close it, and I almost forgot about it after that whole John Cena thing, because it was sort of very upbeat, and then I thought you're coming back to this, and it's like, and again they've done the same sort of style matches they've done the night before with Braun and Goldberg. I think they only used 5 moves, 3 and 2 are the same. So there wasn't, it wasn't like being completely out of the box there with that, unfortunately. But yeah, it was. I mean, they've done as best as they could, I suppose, given the circumstances. But it's very hard to watch any WWE or any promotion at the moment without an audience. For me, I'm struggling with it because I just cannot get into it, and it's through no like fault of effort from the wrestlers. It's just not the same. What's your take with WWE still continuing to want to go with this? Because like, I know they've already shot this Money in the Bank thing, which sounds absolutely ridiculous in itself, because they're going to use like the WWE headquarters. I don't know if you've heard about this.
Yeah, for Money in the Bank. I'm a bit speechless with that.
Because I honestly thought after WrestleMania, and maybe I knew that they'd take Raw ahead of time, so I thought maybe after that they'll take some time off. Not Vince McMahon, he ain't going to do that. What have you made of the fact that they are still carrying on and doing this, and now the governors over there is essential working, of course.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me, for one, because Vince is very close with Trump, and Linda worked in the White House, so that didn't surprise me at all. And obviously, I read somewhere that they had very recently donated some money as well, around $20 million or something like that. So I'm sure that helped. But look, Vince was always going to find a way, I think, to continue to put television on, because look, I don't know the ins and outs, but I would imagine, and from some of the things I've read and seen, that if they can't continue to put on television, they're not going to be getting the same rights money, and obviously if they're not getting ticket revenues for live events, because they're not selling any tickets right now. There's no ticket sales for house shows, and no ticket sales for Raw, SmackDown's pay-per-views, so that they are literally 100% relying on TV money right now on the network, right? So and any advertising and sponsorship they're getting, but they cannot afford to lose that TV revenue. And if that means they have to put on a TV show every week, then he's going to find a way to do it. I was a bit like you, in that I kind of thought that he might have to admit defeat after Mania and kind of call it a day. But it doesn't surprise me that he found a way around it to continue on. It's just, for me. And look, I don't watch as much current wrestling as some people, but I do have a lot of friends that still do. And this is how they feel about it, and it's kind of how I feel. And especially if I was still a really invested fan right now, I'd feel really strongly about this. Is they feel like there's so many missed moments happening right now, so many moments that, like the Drew McIntyre thing, or
Yeah.
even if you look to AEW, who are carrying on as well, like the Matt Hardy debut,
Mhm.
you know, the potential revival debut coming up, and you know the Edge return, you know, Edge's first match back in years.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many moments that, as a fan, you've been waiting for years, and you want that moment, and
Mhm.
you know, that's what a lot of my friends are saying, that they just feel that so many moments are just being flushed down the toilet right now for the sake of just carrying on for this.
Mm.
But at the same time, if I'm playing devil's advocate, there's a lot of people saying, well, I'm glad there's something on for me to watch. I'm glad there's something new every week for me to watch, because there's not, you know, there's no other sports on TV.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of new content coming out. At least it's something for people to talk about and to watch, I guess. But, you know,
Yeah.
for me personally,
Yeah. I kind of, I was like, I was thinking that maybe like they would just stick on a load of network exclusives, like on network television, and give out some maybe interviews or do something like for a whole 3 hours of Raw still doing matches. I was just like, wow, crikey,
yeah,
that's a lot of TV time. But I think there's a combination. I think Vince probably knows that, because I know AEW, they shot all those matches. I think Cody said they've got like 40 something matches in the can. Um, and because obviously Tony Khan's dad owns the Jaguars, so they was just able to use that stadium, no problems. Whereas WWE, they haven't got that luxury of owning their own stadium. They've had to go to the performance center to get everybody in. But I mean, yeah, it's just it's mind-boggling with what's going on. I kind of I think the only worry would be like if wrestlers contract the coronavirus, and then all of a
yeah.
sudden there's going to be like that'll be it. I mean, I'll
That's
only take a couple of well-known. I know there's been cases of employers, but that won't bother Vince too much. But once a wrestler, like a talent, ends up with it, that'll probably be the end of it, because I just don't see how you get past that. Like, with the kind of contact that wrestling is, it would be nigh on impossible, I would
well,
imagine.
I mean, they've been kind of lucky until now that, yeah, like you said, no talent has contracted it, and there has been, like you
Mm,
said, there's been a few employees, but obviously they're either doing something very, very right in the way
mm,
that wrestlers are traveling and isolating and such,
mm.
or they've been very, very lucky. Who knows
Yeah,
what
yeah,
the answer to
yeah.
that? But I would suspect with them and with AEW and even Impact are still running
Mm,
shows as well.
mm,
That all
yeah,
it's going
yeah.
to take is for one or two of the wrestlers to contract it, and it's not impossible to think. You know, you think
Yeah,
footballers managed to contract it here when the Premier League was still
yeah,
going.
yeah, yeah.
It's not unthinkable, and
Mm-hmm.
I think once that happens, that will probably put the brakes on it a little bit. I don't know. It'll be a really interesting discussion once that starts to happen, and if because you'd imagine once one person gets it, then it's gonna spread, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because you know you may be spreading it while you don't even know you have it, so you're still
Mm-hmm.
turning up to work. But who knows? It's just a completely unknown thing, and I'm not. I'm surprised a little bit, but I'm not that surprised really that you know
Yeah, no, I'm the same.
that he's because you know he just wants to make sure he's getting TV out every week. To be honest,
Mhm. Yeah.
the Money in the Bank thing's interesting because I even though I don't watch that much WWE anymore, I see all of it on my Facebook and Twitter and
Mhm.
Instagram. You can't miss it, right? So
Mhm.
I saw the announcement that at the next pay-per-view they're going to do a match where they're in the offices and they've got to get to the roof, and then
That's right. Yeah.
and then, it's good. I mean, we are in some interesting times as a
Yeah. You
wrestling.
wonder how far this is going to go, don't you? Really,
Yeah,
going down the line of things. Like how creative are they going to be able to get with all this stuff? But yeah, I mean, maybe maybe they're just going to wait until the very end and something hits them for them to have to close those doors. That's the way it looks like at the moment, anyway. I'll tell you who won't be going back there will probably be Brock Lesnar. I think he's done now. I think even on the day they were shooting WrestleMania, there was reports that he and Vince McMahon had a massive falling out because
oh
he wanted
really?
his match earlier. Yeah, he wanted his match a lot earlier, and I think that's why you'll find that match was so quick, because Brock literally wanted to get home. And by all accounts, a lot of the other talent was quite happy that Brock had sort of stood up for them in a way against Vince McMahon. Because I guess if you was anybody else, you're probably going to get shown the door. But Brock Lesnar, I keep saying this to people, like talking about isolation. I'm like, if there's any guy who's good with isolation, it's Brock Lesnar. He lives in like that massive, great bloody compound up in Canada.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even have the internet. I remember watching this documentary. He has no internet. He has no telephone at all. He'll be okay now. He's like living normal life. This is not going to bother him. So he's all cool. But yeah, those were the reports coming out. Okay, my friend, I've kept you on this podcast long enough. Last couple of questions for you, my friend. On this one, I always ask people this: who would be, if you could pick anybody in the current UK scene, who would you most like to wrestle? Can be somebody you've even wrestled before, but is there anybody that stands out that you'd love to have a match with?
Does it have to be on the current UK scene, as in not in NXT UK, or can it be in NXT UK?
No, it can be in NXT UK as well, yeah.
Okay, well, I would absolutely love to have a singles match with Pete Dunne. I never got a chance to do it before he got signed, and it's just someone who I've always wanted to have a match with. I feel like my style, like I watch him a lot for like trying to pick stuff up, and if there's any current wrestlers that I do look at, it's him in terms of the kind of methodicalness and the aggressiveness and stuff like that. And he was, in 2017 when I started to come back, he was still on the UK scene, and I was really hoping I could, have that singles match with him. But obviously, he got signed, and I've done a few seminars with him and training sessions with him, and he's just the wealth of knowledge that man has is incredible. So. Yeah, that would be the person.
And if you had your pick of playing fantasy here, anybody past, present, in the entire wrestling world, who would it be?
I'll be Ric Flair. Don't even have to think about that one. They're like, just,
who's babyface in that match?
Well, God, it would have to be me.
Is it going to be like the sort of later years of Ric Flair, sympathy Ric Flair, or are you going back to the NWA days?
I think it'd have to be heel Ric Flair. I think it'd have to be heel Ric Flair, and I'd have to babyface it up just because heel Ric Flair's the best Ric Flair.
Yeah, no, I concur with that. No, thank you very much for coming on, my friend. Just so my listeners can find out where you are, what's all your social medias?
Okay, yeah, thanks. So on Facebook, you can find me at CJ Carter Wrestling. On Instagram, you can find me at CJ Carter 2017, and on Twitter, you can find me at CJ Carter _87. So yeah, follow and enjoy some of my content. Not that I have an awful lot of content to post at the moment, but
yeah, I know what you mean. No, it's been a real pleasure to have you on, my friend. Good talking to you, and I know that we're living in these times. Obviously, one thing I will finish on, like I remember last time I bumped into you, which was Triumph. You was on this crazy diet at the time, where I know, like, I believe you was like having to go and do a match, but if the timing wasn't right, you were going to miss the whole meals for the whole day. Yeah. How is that for you in this time, like with your diet and training? Like, is that a big issue, or are you able to adapt?
No, I say it's easier actually, because you're right. I was doing intermittent fasting, which means you basically you have a 16-hour fast, and so you can only eat in a certain window, which was harder when I was wrestling, because like if I had a show really late, like at that show, for example, I didn't finish wrestling until 9 o'clock, so I've got to try and cram my food in so that the next day I don't have to wait until like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon to eat. But now, obviously, I'm not wrestling, I'm not working, so it's really easy to kind of fit it in, so that I can kind of get my last meal in by about 6 or 6:30, which means like the next day I can eat at like 10:30 or 11. So I'm still very much doing the intermittent fasting. I think it's kind of helped me a lot to kind of stay lean. And in terms of training, it's been difficult. Just trying to do whatever I can. I went out and bought some secondhand weights as soon as the gym closed, and if any of the people follow me or see on my Instagram, they'll see that I've kind of done some DIY home gym stuff where I've made
Yeah.
made like a weight bench